The shadow of the weary heart. Truth cuts the dark like a flaming dart. Voices rising strong to lift the call. This is the time we give it all. Lynne Scott Haggerman bringing the fire. Words that ignite hearts burning higher. Faith and power, no chains can bind. Step into the light, leave fear behind.
Hello, everybody. It's Lynne Scott Haggerman here to bring you podcast number 2 on the wonderful Patriots Prayer Network, where I've been asked to be a host. I am so blessed and honored to do so. Before we get started today, I wanted to share a little bit about my background before I bring my incredible guest on. But I want to share about my background because I know I'm new to all of you. Let me tell you current day first. Current day, I'm an award-winning international human resource consultant. I'm an independent LifeWave distributor. I'm a marathoner. I'm a weightlifter. I'm a podcaster. I am a child of God, a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, a friend of Holy Spirit. And I have been activated to share my testimony and help others for the past year and a half because whenever I was little, I was trafficked from birth until I was 5 years old in a child trafficking house. Simultaneously, I was taken to a U.S. University medical center where they experiment on me and many other children underground. Many did not survive. I survived. And God has called me for such a time as this to be a voice for the voiceless. I am here to honor the little girl in me who survived that. I'm here to honor the little girl in me who survived that and helped others to survive. And I'm here to honor the many children who did not. And I want to say too, that God is absolutely good. And because of that, here I am and Victor Avila. Victor, so thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Thank you. I am too. And before we get started, I wanted to read your bio. I am convinced the vast majority of our listeners know exactly who you are, but just in case, I want to read your bio. So you are a retired Homeland Security Investigations Supervisory Special Agent. You're going to share your firsthand account of the deadly cartel ambush in Mexico by the Los Zetas cartel that left you severely wounded and took the life of your colleague, Special Agent Jaime Zapata. Victor is going to open up about how he survived by the grace of God. Praise God, as did I. And I was sharing, this is a pause in Victor's background. I was talking before I hit record that I'm amazed at the goodness of God in the land of the living, who would bring two survivors, people that he helped survive together, to help share information with the world. And at that moment, being helped to survive by the grace of God, Victor transformed his mission for justice and national security, frankly, into a global level of activation. Victor is an internationally recognized human trafficking expert. And he is, if we have time today, we'll break down some real human trafficking cases that reveals the dark reality of child trafficking and forced labor across the borders. And whenever I have information to share on the topic, I will too. Victor's work has helped dismantle multiple transnational criminal organizations, rescuing countless women and children. Praise God. I'm one of the ones who was waiting for rescue. It didn't happen for me, but I know that there are a lot of good men and women out there currently rescuing the children. As a matter of fact, we heard President Trump today announce that 10,000 more children have been rescued and many more on the way. And Victor and I will talk about that, as well as many other things. So especially current events, because there's so much happening now. So again, Victor, welcome. And I am going to let you start out where your heart leads.
Well, I'll tell you just a little bit about me, because I really want to talk about what's going on with the border, and there's so much to talk about there. A lot of people know me because of the ambush that my partner and I suffered at the hands of Los Zetas cartel in Mexico when we served there in 2011. We were ambushed on a highway and shot up over 120 rounds. Agent Zapata tragically lost his life in the line of duty. I'm here, like you said, by the grace of God, after taking 3 bullets. And so, it's a life changer, right? When you go through a life event like that and traumatic event, a lot of things change. And for me, because of my faith, for the better. And it was something that my family and I went through, and as horrible as it was, we got through it. But it didn't end there for me. I want to make sure that I'm still on with you. Are you there?
Hear you, but I am there. I'm sorry. This is me. So I ask people for grace. I told Victor this is my first live show, and I'm still learning all the buttons. I've been pushing buttons all day, guys, trying to set this up. So my apologies, Victor.
That's okay. That's okay. I understand. You'll get really good at it.
Thank you.
So anyway, I'm the type of person that I just, after I medically retired, and I just could not sit back, and especially in 2021, when this whole mess under the Biden administration started happening, I started going down the border. I started to see from my own eyes, because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing, what I was listening to, that something that I fought for all my life, and, uphold law and order, defend our sovereignty, protect our borders, was just completely disregarded. I mean, really disregarded. I mean,
Yes.
Border Patrol agents no longer were Border Patrol agents, and law enforcement didn't mean anything at the border. They were there, they were present, but just that's all it was presence, which made it even more difficult to understand this upside down and backwards worlds that the left lives in, even as I speak today. And so what happened is that millions of people from all over the world were allowed into the country illegally, and all of them. It doesn't matter whether they were issued a parole, whether they came in through TPS, whether they came in through the CBP1 app, whether they walked the river, crossed the river and turned themselves in. It's all illegal. And I knew it. Everybody knew it. And the Biden administration knew it. Alejandro Mayorkas knew it, the Secretary of Homeland Security. And they did it anyway. And so to feel powerless and to see what was happening at the airports, at the ports of entry, I flew with a lot of these illegal aliens, including children that were accompanied by men that were not their father. It was this NGO, that you and I paid for, by the way, to
Yes.
transport this 3-year-old little girl, 4-year-old little boy. And I have the pictures, and I present them when I do in-person presentations. Despite the other hundreds of thousands that came in through the river unaccompanied, with a little note, either on a piece of paper or written on the forearm, with an address and a phone number of a person and a name, and that's it. And the Biden administration then said, well, we're going to give these kids to Health and Human Services, HHS, and they did. And Health and Human Services said, well, we're not a law enforcement agency. We don't do that. So we're just going to give this child to whatever name is on there without any reference to check of the person that's receiving this kid. And so, as you can imagine, the atrocities, some that we know of, because they got so out of hand that there was like locations like in Houston that received 77 children in one apartment.
That's right.
And there was a sex offender that received a child in California. And so it's just incredible to believe that it happened right in front of our noses. We couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't stop them. But now we're here, right? And so now the hard work, and this is a point that I really want to drive in, is that the reason why you're seeing everything that is going on, the raids, the arrest, the rescuing of the children, it's because of what happened and the Biden administration allowed to happen into this country. And by the way, illegal immigration didn't start 4 years ago. It's been ongoing for decades. I had a secure employment because of it, but it shifted. It shifted to unprecedented type of action Before, it was a cat and mouse game. It had always been like that. We catch you, we send you back, crimes, but we were actively enforcing the law. The Biden administration changed all that. I heard today in the news that the left is now saying that they don't want this to be normalized and they don't want this to be normal. This is normal. Law and order is normal. What they did is normalize open borders and normalize border patrols not doing their job and ICE agents handcuffed to their desks. That they normalized. And it was a big effect, let me tell you, on a lot of my colleagues, because all of a sudden now in comes Trump and you are working Tuesday night and Saturday. And like I did in my career, I didn't have a schedule. I worked all hours, day and night. And they didn't under the Biden administration. A lot of them worked from home, which makes no sense how an investigator or an agent can work from their house. But they did. And no fault of their own. That's how the administration wanted them. They wanted them in their house instead of going out in the street and looking for the illegals. But now, guess what? They are out in the street getting these illegals. But because of the cameras, because of the mainstream media, because of the exposure, like you mentioned to me before, we are in this predicament where they want to see ICE agents killed and hurt. As a matter of fact, 2 ambushes this past week in Texas, attacks in Portland and California. It is unreal, unheard of. I've been doing a lot of news segments and hits. I don't even know what to say anymore because I'm outraged. I go through a lot of emotions because I went through this with an ambush. I don't want any ICE agent or ICE agent's family or any law enforcement officer for that matter to go through what I went through. And the left seems to encourage it. They're saying we want that. They interviewed the mayor of Los Angeles yesterday, or it might have been this morning, and she had a perfect opportunity to condemn the actions of the rioters and the left. And she actually ignored and said that her words were, there were no riots in LA. Now, when an elected official says that to you, then we're in big trouble because their mind is somewhere else. I understand La La Land is over there, but the American people deserve a lot. And the number one thing that they deserve is public safety. Doesn't matter what level of government, whether it's your local city council, your county government, your state or federal, the number one duty of those elected officials is public safety. That's why the budget of all of these cities and towns, the biggest chunk of that budget goes to fire and police. Why? Because we want to be able to call 911 and have help here in our home within a reasonable amount of time to help us. That doesn't happen around the world. People that, especially the ones that are coming in from all over the country, are coming from socialist, communist countries, broken economies. They don't have that. That doesn't exist, which is one of the magnets that people get when one of the magnets to come over to the United States is the public safety. Well, what's happening is that they're not adapting to the public safety. They're bringing their home country's culture, which is rackets and riots and crime and murders and rapes and thefts and burglaries and you name it. That's what they're bringing. And I'm the first one to tell you, not everyone is doing it. I know that. They're good people. They're legally here too, but there's different categories of illegals. You got the worst of the worst in between, and then, really good people. I understand that. But for me, I cannot tolerate one more crime from anyone, especially one that's here presently illegally in our country. So I don't want one more rape. I don't want one more crime of any type. And then these people that come over here with this audacity now, with this kind of entitlement that the United States is to take care of them. Therefore, you see these protests with the Mexican flag and their home country flags, demanding of the United States, how ironic, demanding of the United States to take care of them, to let them live here illegally and dismiss and avoid and ignore our own laws that were legislatively passed, by the way, by the voter through a constitutional republic that we are. We're not a democracy, and I continue to say that because the left and even a lot on the right, it's going to ruin our democracy. We don't have one. It's a democratic constitutional republic, which is very different. This is not a 51% deal that people think that democracy is. This is the people choose their representative from their community at different levels to be their voice. And it's what they want, not what the elected official wants. It's what they want. But obviously, in the last, several years, that or maybe even decades, it's been flipped, and it's the other way around. It's like we work for them, and no. We got to remember that we own this country. It's mine, and we get to dictate what happens. And somehow, the power that gets to Washington and these capitals in Texas and Austin, they've lost track of that. I tried to run it for Congress for that same reason. I kept on telling people, you're the employer, and I'm the employee, like I've been all my life for the federal government as a public servant. And I just want to go there, get paid, and do my job. That's all. And if you don't like it, you fire me. Simple as that. But that doesn't happen anymore. A lot of people that should not be as our representative are our representative, doing and going against the will of the people. So what are we talking about here? Politics, right? You cannot ignore one from the other. Yes, they're like this. Sometimes I get the feedback like, well, I'm not a very political person, Victor. And my answer is, you better get political. You better get political quick, because you have a brain, you have critical thinking skills, and you know what? Everything is political. The hole in the street and the pothole in front of your street is political. The light that doesn't work is political. Your grocery store is political. The gas station is political. How do you think things function, and who makes decisions? And so you need to start paying attention. And I'm a big advocate for local politics, because that's where you make the biggest impact. And the left knew that many, many years ago, and they started flipping these school boards. They started flipping the city councils and county commissioners' courts. And when you control local politics, you really control everything else. And because those are the ones that actually made the decision. If you go back and think about COVID, who made the decisions that what business we couldn't go into or not? It was your county commissioner or your mayor. It wasn't the president. It wasn't even the governor in some instances. It was your local government, because I live in Texas, and it would matter from county to county, depending who was the county judge, whether or not you could go into a barbershop. And Dallas, as blue as it is, couldn't do anything. But I happen to live in a redder district. COVID for me, it really didn't exist. I was free because of where I lived. And that's not the way this is supposed to be. And so there's so much to go. So you tell me what direction we take it, because human trafficking, human smuggling, 2 different crimes, by the way, cartels, fentanyl, another one. And of course, the rhetoric from the left that are calling for the violence against ICE agents, it is just intolerable for me.
Absolutely. And you're right. You are definitely an international expert in all of these subject matters. And I'm amazed and so grateful for how the Lord has used you since that tragic day to bring light and hope to people. I mean, you are speaking truth at a time whenever we need, people want to know the truth. People are hungry to know the truth, and they realize that mainstream media has not been for a long time, well, ever since Operation Mockingbird, and they are not the place to find the truth. So you have shared so much. And yes, I want to unpack from the beginning different things that you talked about. The first thing, when you were talking about the children that were trafficked across the border during the Biden administration, of course, that had been happening for a long time, but people were caught. The numbers were lower at times, and it was out of control then. The NGOs, I'm sure, so I know that there are good people everywhere, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who have gotten into high places and positions who are having policies and procedures that are not for we the people. So I call the NGOs non-godly organizations.
I like that.
Yeah. And so I like to pick, so my background, I was trafficked at that age, at the time the children were coming across the border. And I speak for the little ones. And I want people to imagine what it's like for, picture your own children or your grandchildren or your nieces or your nephews being given to a man who has not been vetted, and they just are taken from your sight and get to take them wherever they want to. Just imagine that. That's what happened with 900,000 children. And I have had information about several of these NGOs. My background, my day job, I'm an international human resource consultant. I know how to hire people, I know how to vet people. And so what I have been discovering is
You
these
can't do it in 2 minutes, can you?
no, you can't. No, you can't, Victor. So these men were not vetted. We have no idea who they were. And I know that they were paid a ridiculous amount of money to do this. So that's the first thing that I wanted to
Well,
address.
let me expand a little bit on that
Yeah,
because the vetting is, man, that's probably the number one issue. A lot on a lot of different aspects. One was the asylum criteria, right? The
right.
asylum criteria is the same. It's never changed. If you go online and Google it, and you're going to read the 4 or 5 criteria, I used to know them by heart. And you have to be persecuted by the government or where you're coming from for, membership in a specific group or all that. That's it. It's very clear. The Biden administration destroyed that asylum criteria because they knew if they started asking the right questions of the person, they're going to know right away, right there at the line of the border, that they didn't qualify for asylum, because supposedly they called them asylum seekers. But it got so perverse. I never even heard the word asylum every time I was at the border. I would interview them, the illegals coming from the river, and I would purposely ask them, where are you coming from? And this is one man, illegal from Guatemala. I'm coming from Guatemala. And I said, why are you coming? Well, there's a lot of violence in Guatemala. There's a lot of cartels. There's no work. There's lack of education. And never, being, I said, is the government of Guatemala after you? No. He says, I'm fine. And I said, where are you going? Chicago? Are you kidding me? I chuckled. I said, Chicago's worse statistically in crime, in opportunity. So just that interview that I did was not being allowed to be conducted by Border Patrol agents, because then they would know, well, this guy in front of me doesn't qualify. Why would I allow him in? But no. It was one, take your name, and put your fingerprints down. You came back negative, clear, let him in. I mean, I had a story once of a Border Patrol agent friend of mine tell me he had this guy fully tattooed up. His eyeballs were tattooed black. Scary looking guy, right? He says, just because we're law enforcement officers, but just because I have this guy in front of me, the way he looks, it would just require some more interrogation on my part. No, there's no time. Go. That's why we allowed not all of these illegals, convicted felons,
Yes.
sex offenders,
Yes.
terrorists,
Yes.
and then I don't know if you went back, but I followed very closely. A couple of those terrorists that we actually let in, once they found out they let the terrorists in, they were like, go get the terrorist. And they would go find, I don't remember one, they found him in Tampa, and like, oh, we let him in. Because that's how fast they were being pressured to process these people. The same thing with the kids. So initially, if you remember, at the end of the first Trump administration, they implemented DNA testing.
Yes, they did.
We had the first DNA, and then they brought in the rapid DNA that you will know within 20 minutes. As soon as the rapid DNA, even the other DNA testing was implemented, the children stopped coming. Because what happened is that my friends would tell me, well, here's the person, or 4 or 5 people using one child coming in, so they could be treated as a family unit, which is separate than the way you would treat a single adult male. And then once they're like, okay, is this your child? Oh yeah, we're gonna DNA test you. Boom. The first thing they would do is abandon the child right then. Oh, it's not my child. I don't know. And so all of a sudden you started having children.
Right.
100. I'm not sure, but there's 900, 300. It's just too many.
Too many.
And then some more. And so then we'll send the child by themselves then, because this is the way it happens on the Mexican side. It doesn't matter what country you're from. And this is something that sometimes shocks people when I tell them. The majority, if almost not all of the cases that I worked, and I worked all different types of the spectrum of human trafficking cases, the mother gave the child up. They don't. People sometimes don't believe me. They all want to. Everybody wants to believe that it was a white van that pulled up to the curb, opened the van, and they abducted that child and took them. Yes, those cases do exist. Yes, full-blown force kidnapping. Yes, they exist. Minimally, they're the exception to the rule. They don't have to do that. The human traffickers don't have to do that. They send a representative. In Spanish, they call him the guy that hooks them, the hooker. And this is a well-looking kid, whether it's a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and I've seen them do it in an hour. Pick them up voluntarily. The girl will go with him, and or approach the mother that wants to cross the border. Will give me your child. We'll bring you in. Maybe get a discount on the smuggling fee, and then we're gonna reunite you on the other side because that's the way we do it. The cartel controls that. No, then you never see your child ever again. I did a case really quickly in El Paso. We hit a motel of illegal aliens with a smuggler, and this was the time that we were finally going to take down the smuggler from. He was from El Salvador. Well, we got him. It was like 18 illegal aliens in the hotel, bringing them back to the station. We asked Border Patrol to come help us because Border Patrol is very good at processing than the special agents. So they helped us. They were processing them. They were interviewing. This is not my case. I'm helping out and everything. They're interviewing the main smuggler. And then one of the ladies in the tank or the holding facility is crying and saying, he has my child. And I go in Spanish and I go up to her, what are you talking about? There's no children at the hotel. He says, no, I had given him my child before. And he has him. And it's an 18-year-old little girl, 18-month-old little girl. And so I go to my partner and said, let me have a crack at this guy and interrogate him. And then we go in there, interrogate him and break him. And he gives us the address of a house in El Paso. We suit up, we go hit it. 17 kids in the house.
No.
With 4 adults in there that are not their children, just other 4 illegal aliens. And all of a sudden, that's why I think back now with the sheer numbers, we were overwhelmed with 17 kids, including the little girl. Her daughter was there. All of a sudden, call CPS, get transportation, car seats, formula, diapers. It is for 17 kids.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands. The cracks that were created for these kids to fall in these cracks. And so I've seen it. I've been there. And it is just beyond me how it would be allowed. One thing is the adults and the illegals. Okay. But when it comes to the children that don't have a say-so, that don't have the ability to defend themselves, they don't have, like Tom Homan, and I tell Tom, I'm going to use this, Tom, because he says this all the time. He says they don't have a digital footprint like you and I. We could be fine. If people wanted to find us, we could be fine. We're internet, the phone, address, whatever. We exist here. Children don't. They don't have a credit card. They don't have something that we can find us. So we have to go by the next of kin or person that they were with to try. You know how difficult that is. So it is a horrific of events, and I think people don't grasp the severity of that. And I'm going to jump to a little different subject. Just like they don't grasp the severity of fentanyl. Over 500 in America.
Before you jump to fentanyl, Victor, I want to camp on this just a minute because the children are so near and dear to my heart from my background. Tom Homan, we were talking pre-show, and I heard him in February of this year on Dr. Phil's show, and he was on all over the place. But he said that he had self-deputized every U.S. citizen to find these missing children. And not kinetic, because we are not law enforcement. But if you see something, say something, and to contact ICE. ICE's website, there's a toll-free number. You can call anonymously. There is a form you can fill out online. It can be anonymous. And when Tom did that, the website, before I started, I have been sharing my testimony for the last year and a half when God activated me to do so for such a time as this. And for years, before that, when I was in deep healing, he gave me his plan for helping the children who've been trafficked above ground and below ground, the aftercare, as well as adults who've been harmed and any kind of trauma, because trauma, what you went through is trauma. Trauma is trauma, and people need help. And we the people here to lock arms with each other and help out in this situation. So I took all the information that the Lord told me he wanted for the aftercare of the little ones, and I created a website called Q, the letter Q, and the word grit, GRIT.org, and I've been putting it across the bottom of the screen. I hope I did. We started out, Victor, as well as your book and website. We'll see what happens. But anyway, he named that website. There's an old John Wayne movie called True Grit. And it's about a girl that loses her family, and she's a feisty little thing that goes after the bad guys with John Wayne. Anyway, God has a marvelous way of describing things. That's why he named my website that. On the website, I devoted an entire page to Let's Find the Kids. I think that's what I call the tab. But I put the 800 number for ICE. I put the website. And what I put to was how to recognize if you see a child who's being trafficked or harmed, what to do and not do. And what to do actually too is another step. If you recognize a little one that you love is being harmed, what to do and what to not do. But for this topic today is to contact ICE, because that's what Tom Homeland told us to do. So I wanted to share that while we're speaking. And the second thing too, Victor, before we get off this topic, that I wanted to ask you about, RFK Jr. in a cabinet meeting with President Trump, I want to say a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, but I'm sure not any older than that. In the middle of the cabinet meeting, he said that they were fully aware that HHS was the vector of child trafficking in the United States.
Correct.
So I would love your comment on that.
Well, it's because we all knew it, right? But I'm glad that he said it publicly. They set up, the Biden administration set up a well-oiled machine.
Yes, they did.
Which I've never seen the government be so efficient, let me tell you. But when it came to illegalities, boy, were they good at it. And that had to do with, it started with, the NGOs, all the way down to the Darien Gap, It didn't start at the border. This is a well-oiled machine way down there. Incentivizing people to come over. And so then they set up the system as the contact from the Border Patrol. They eliminated Border Patrol's authority, basically. They said, you're going to transport them, you're going to feed them, you're going to do different things. You're going to house them temporarily, and then you're going to move them out. One of the things that a lot of people didn't know, that when the illegal alien, the ones that turn themselves in, they call them the give-ups, and they would turn themselves in voluntarily. They get checked. They would go to a facility, all these soft-sided facilities that built along the border. I went to a lot of them. I got kicked out of some of them. And they would, once they were released, and the reason why they were released, because of the catch and release policy, that they were given a notice to appear in NTA. You probably heard this process before. And that date was probably in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, whatever that date was. Anyway, they were at that point free to go in the country. They were released, but they didn't release them. The Border Patrol then, from the facility, that soft-sided facility, took them to an NGO.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have to take them to an NGO. They didn't have to. They were free to go. They could have left them right there in Eagle Pass, Texas. You've been processed. You've been given a temporary permit. You're in the country. Do as you will. Whether you get a bus pass or an airplane or whatever. No. We're going to help you complete that process by taking you to the NGO. The NGO then going to charge each person per head $50. People would come in. You have the $50? Yes, you stand on this line. You don't have the $50? You stand on this line. That's just for me. And then the NGO also happens to own the buses.
Wow.
And there's going to be a fee to get on that bus. Who paid? I could never get anybody to tell me who paid. You know what they would say? Oh, it's the family members send the money. Right. I've seen family members send money, and they do. A lot of them send money, but not like this. Not with millions and millions of people. And then they got on a bus. Well, then they got into the NGO facility a day or two, and then I even saw family members drive from other states, and they would tell them, I'm already at the NGOs. Drive a day, 15, 16 hours, whatever, down to the facility and be outside waiting for them. And I would interview them like, my cousin or whatever. And they would come out and they would drive an illegal alien, transport an illegal alien freely through the checkpoint and everything back into North Carolina, Minneapolis, Denver, you name it, right? So, or got on the bus with the NGO, and then the state of Texas got involved and said, that's enough of that. Well, yeah, well, if you're going to do that anyway, we can't beat you, we can't stop you, but we could then take you to New York then and take you to Chicago if that's what it's going to take, right? And I remember having mixed feelings about that whole. I remember because I liked it because it brought New York and the Chicago's into the game. Like you want to taste of our own medicine. You want to feel what we're feeling. Well, here you go. And then on my other side was like, well, we're basically just facilitating the transportation of these people into the country anyway. So so that was that. And what did that equate to? Billions of dollars that they made with a B. A lot of organizations. Right now, a lot of these NGOs don't exist anymore because the funding stopped. They were getting paid. They were getting paid through FEMA. They were getting paid through the State Department. Somehow the United Nations is involved. What the heck is the United Nations doing? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So this well-oiled machine is. I want to replicate that the other way around, but it's very difficult because now the people are not concentrating in one place where you could get them. Now they're spread throughout the United States. And that's why you see the enforcement that you see. They're at forced labor camps. They're at sex slave camps. They are just working in construction. They're committing crimes. Some are doing nothing. The entire spectrum. And so I saw a video yesterday. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't live in California, but they're showing pictures online of how California traffic has improved dramatically.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if it's true or not. People showing videos. I don't know, but I kind of tend to believe it. If you get millions of people off the road and they happen to be illegal because they're scared because they're probably looking for them, that even impacts the traffic.
Yes. I the information that you share, you're someone that I could talk to for hours because you have so much knowledge and information, but I know we've only got about 15 minutes or so left. What comes to mind is I had not thought of this before, and I loved your insight. Our government we have Doge. Our government's known to be inefficient. And you're right. There was maximum efficiency during this invasion into the United States. So that's a case in point. The other thing that I would like people to research, because this is a time for we the people to get our hands onto actual knowledge and facts so we can research this ourselves to know what the truth is. I want people to look at the United Nations website. I had no idea they were this involved at the border, Victor, although I'm not surprised. The United Nations, and again, my heart is with everyone, but especially the children. The United Nations has a horrific plan when you go on their website when it comes to the children. And I'm trying to find a delicate way to say this, but they want the children sexualized from birth. It is in their plan. And they want to normalize pedophilia as if that is something that is normal when it is absolutely not. And that is part of their agenda. So why has this been happening? The UN's behind it. That does not surprise me because there's an infiltration from all areas. The last thing I wanted to talk about before we moved on is from my background. Whenever I was little, I would see the Lord Jesus Christ a lot in the trafficking houses and at the university. So God was always there. I am very close to them still. And what I want to encourage people to do is prayer. Those listening, Victor, I know Victor's retired, but there are several people kinetically in this. That is not the majority of the people listening to me, I know. So people ask me, what can I do? Well, QGIRT.org has many ideas. Please go there, search that out. There's a contact page if you'd like to reach me and get involved with what I'm doing. But one thing I want you to encourage you to do is pray. From my background, when people are harmed as children at the early age that I am, we develop, it's been scientifically proven, that we have 44 times the visual acuity of others, and that was needed to survive. And because of that, you fast forward, as a marathoner, I'm out running all the time, right? I'm just constantly out and about in the community, miles and miles every which direction. Because of so I see the embedded terrorists. I see them they're all over the United States. There's not a town that's not affected, but I see them. And because I know when someone doesn't belong, I encourage everyone, open your eyes and look, and you will notice people who do not belong. Now, ICE is one option, but in this case, I want to talk about spiritual things. We have Matthew 18:18, Matthew 16. We have keys to the kingdom of heaven. That's what Jesus said. What we allow is allowed. What we do not allow is not allowed by heaven. And I think before people weren't aware, and now we are. So now we have a choice. And if we say nothing and do nothing in the spiritual realm, we are allowing this, and it's going to continue. But if we say no and pray against this, we do have the power, dominion, and authority over this, because our battle, Ephesians 6, is not against people, it's against spiritual principalities. So I want to encourage. So here's what I do. When I see an illegal alien that I know does not belong here, is a terrorist, I start praying, commanding angels, talking to the Lord about it. And I will tell you 100% of the time, it may not be instantly, but within 2 months tops, that person's gone. So I don't know how it happens, and I don't need to know. But what I want to do is to encourage people with at least that action step. And you have more power, dominion, and authority over this in your own community.
Absolutely.
So if we, the people person, would pray, this is the Patriots Prayer Network, and there is so much power in prayer, then that is our part at a minimum. So, Victor, I just had to share that before you
No,
proceed.
I agree. I agree 100%. Especially, I call it awareness. This keeps us all, I call this la la land, and it's not reality.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a duty as a civic duty as an American, citizen of this wonderful country, to now start paying a little bit of attention. And when people ask me, what do you want me to do? I have to call the White House? No, take it easy. Just be aware. Let's just start there.
Yes.
Look up. You're down. Now you're looking up, and you're
Yes.
looking left, and you're looking right. There's no paranoia here. I'm just telling you to be aware of your surroundings when you go to Walmart, when you go to the store, when you go to the restaurant, when you go out, wherever you go, the theater. Just be aware. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you start noticing. And if you want to take it one step further, you want to get involved in your local community, find out who represents you at your neighborhood. Do you know the name? There is a person, by the way, that was elected, maybe not by you. Did you vote? Maybe you did elect that person, and you have no idea who that person is, but you know that you have the right, and you can call them and have a cup of coffee with them because they work for you. And if they don't want to do that, then you're starting to find out what type of person represents you. So you can, in fact, have a conversation with that person to see where now you're going to find out a lot of things. If you go to one meeting, if you happen to move up and say, I'm going to get involved, I'm going to go to one, city council meeting, you'll be surprised what these people are deciding about you and your family and your school, and the money that you spend, your hard-earned money and the taxes. Sometimes the mouth will be left open with the decisions that they make that you don't agree with, and that just starts the process. That's as simple as I put it. It doesn't have to be more complicated. Obviously, if you see something, say something. Have the courage. A lot of people, sometimes embarrassment keeps them from doing that. There's a book called The Gift of Fear. It's a very, very difficult read. Read that one after you read mine. But I gave that one to my daughter when she went off to college. Very, very hard to read because it's very violent. But it talks about your gut instinct, that feeling you get here, that we know when something is wrong, and yet we'll still go through with it. Like, one of the examples is a very horrific example, but I'll share it with you. A girl is going to go into an elevator. There's 3 men, strangers in the elevator. She knows that she shouldn't go in that elevator at night, and she does anyway because of embarrassment. What are they going to say? But all you have to do is turn around or and not get on the elevator. But she gets, and she was right, and gets gang raped by these individuals. And so she's a victim speaking about these. These are all in this book, a lot of victims sharing the same thing that what happens at parking lots and rapes and assaults, because we're not paying attention to us. In this case, I'll go further. We're not paying attention to the Lord. And you're not, God is missing in our country, in our lives. That's for sure. And boy, is that the fatherless home. And I could go on with drug use and crime and education and that vicious cycle that I saw in my 20-year career. We want to break that cycle. And how do you break it? Sometimes it's just by the faith in God. Sometimes it's by family, having a family present, and by paying attention and being aware. Simple as that. You'd be surprised how better you will feel, because you're going to feel engaged. People will talk to you about something and you are going to be aware. Now, I'm a news junkie. I'm a political junkie. That just happens to be my world. But I sometimes get, pigeonholed into this, and I need to be aware of other things other than my world and what I'm involved in. And that's my cue to say, what's going on over there? What's going on in my neighborhood? So I could be aware of what's going on. And so that's the homework. It's very easy. Pay attention. When's the last time you talked to your neighbor? When's the last time do you know their name other than just waving hi and bye? I arranged a block party here at a cul-de-sac. And I live in a very diverse neighborhood. And I got a brain surgeon that lives behind me. And people like, whoa, it was really nice. It was really cool to meet them. And now all of us, just because of that once, we know who comes in and drives in, and it's a sense of community. Remember, we used to have that in the 80s. Remember, at least for me, in the late 70s, 80s, where your kid I'd be gone for 8 hours on my bike. Nobody cared. I'd like to see this country go back to that. I'd like to see where I can let my kids, without any worry, go out there, have fun, enjoy. Because what? There's public safety. And if you don't have public safety, you don't have anything else. You cannot do anything else. I saw communities like Del Rio, Texas, break down because of public safety. Del Rio, Texas was a wonderful, 45,000 population community, great community. When the illegal alien invasion happened, remember the Haitian invasion and all that? It really destroyed the community. People would tell me, my 11-year-old daughter used to ride her bike to the bike stop, leave her bike there. And now there's a bunch of illegals from Guatemala or I don't even know where. And then there's a bunch over there at the mall. My teenage daughter can't go to the mall anymore. And it changed their life. It changed their itinerary on a daily basis because of the public safety. And when you don't feel safe in your own home, in your own neighborhood, we got a problem. And we have the problem right now. By the way, we have that problem without the illegal aliens. That problem already exists. We have a crime surge problem in this country because of the lack of accountability and the revolving door when they get arrested and all that problems with the criminal justice system. I get it. So then you want to throw in 11, 20, 22 million people that if 1% of those people are committing crimes, you really want that? Well, we haven't. And now we find ourselves trying to solve it. And then you have the left blocking and defending that. We're gonna stand on the side of the MS-13 gang member father from Maryland. We're gonna pick that guy to be our representative from the left, because that's what the left does. We're gonna vilify the individual ICE agent who's just doing his job and dox him and his family, even though he goes to the church and the kids go to school there in the community. And now that's not enough. We're gonna have to ambush him and shoot him and kill him. Listen. We are in unprecedented times. You can no longer say we all are busy. We all have bills to pay. The kids have to go play soccer. I know. I had that life too. But you have to pay attention a little bit. I think now we're at a duty. If we want to save our country, it's up to you. Not the police, not the governor, not the state rep. You and your inner circle to start paying a little bit of attention.
Amen. Amen and amen, Victor. That is a wonderful way to end our show. And thank you because I wanted to give you enough time to eat. I know you're on
you.
so many shows and you need to eat.
I'm jumping on with Fox Business right now and then Newsmax after that. So that'll end up my day today.
You're so amazing. So a couple of things before I let you go. I know we currently have close to 3,400 people watching live, and folks, I don't know how to work the chat and talk to someone and push buttons all at the same time. So I just want to say thank you for being here. I'm confident the chat went well. If you need to reach out to me personally, go to qgrit.org. There's a contact page. One thing I did learn to do, well, I mean, I was thoroughly taught. This is my first time. So thank you for the grace you've given me. But I have been streaming our socials and how to reach me, how to contact Victor to buy his book, which I really encourage everyone to do, how to contact Victor to speak at your organization, to hear more about his background. So thank you for the grace. I see where the chat button is, but honestly, I was afraid to touch it because I didn't know if the world would blow up as we knew it. I just wasn't really sure. So maybe the next live, I'll be able to chat. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
For being on the show. God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Breaks the shadow of the weary heart. Truth cuts the dark like a flaming dart.